Hey everybody, this is section 10.4 on page 17. We are going to be talking about finding the probability of A or B. So there's a couple definitions we can talk about first. That would be compound or overlapping events, which is the union or intersection of two events. And disjoint or mutually exclusive events, which is two events that have no outcomes in common. Okay, there's also a couple of formulas to go along with this. When you are using, talking about compound or overlapping events, and A and B are two events, then the probability of A or B is P of A or B. So the way we write that is the probability of event A plus the probability of event B, and we subtract the probability of A and B happening, which we'll talk about. And if they are disjoint, so they're mutually exclusive, we just take the probability of A plus the probability of B. So if you need to pause the video to write this stuff down, go ahead and do so. We're going to start with just disjoint events. So when we think about disjoint events, remember, again, this is two events that don't have an outcome in common. So this problem here says you roll a six-sided six-sided number cube. What is the probability of rolling a 2 or a 5? So this is disjoint because they don't really have anything, it's still the same idea. We're rolling a number cube, but we're not, they're not overlapping in any way. So this is the probability of rolling a 2 or a 5 is equal to, and we'll just take the probability of rolling a 2 plus the probability of rolling a 5. So the probability of rolling a 2, if we have a six-sided number cube or a dice, is 1 out of 6 plus 1 out of 6 chances for the probability of rolling a 5. So that's 2 out of 6. Now you could leave that for a test, that's fine, or you could reduce to 1/3. To do another one, you roll a six-sided number cube. What is the probability of rolling a 1 or an even number? So the probability of rolling a 1 or an even number, we would take the probability of rolling a 1 plus the probability of rolling an even number. So that's 1 out of 6. And there's three numbers that are even, so that's 3 out of 6. So 3 out of 6 plus 1 over 6 is 4 over 6, which you could leave it or reduce to 2/3. All right, so those were disjoint events. Let's go ahead and look at some compound events. So this says you roll a six-sided number cube. What is the probability of rolling an odd number or a number less than 3? So let's think about this for a second. Our odd numbers are 1, 3, and 5, and our numbers less than 3 are just 1 and 2. So take notice here that they both have a 1. So you could roll an odd number, you could roll a number less than 3, but you could also roll a number that is odd and less than 3. So the probability of an odd or less than 3 is equal to, so we need to take the probability of rolling an odd number plus the probability of rolling something less than 3 minus the probability of both of them. So the probability of rolling an odd number is 3 out of 6 plus 2 out of 6 minus, there's only one chance that it's odd and less than 3, so that's 1 out of 6. So 3 plus 2 minus 1, that gives us 4 out of 6, or 2/3. To do another one here, you roll another six-sided number cube. What is the probability of rolling a number less than 4 or an even number? So the numbers less than 4 are 1, 2, 3, and an even number is 2, 4, and 6. So notice here, both could be a 2. So the probability of less than 4 or even is equal to the probability of less than 4 plus the probability of an even number minus the probability of both of them. So, probability that it's less than 4 is 3 out of 6. Even number is also 3 out of 6. Minus both of them, so they both could be, they both have a 2, which is less than 4 and even, so that's 1 out of 6. 3 plus 3 minus 1, that gives me 5 out of 6. Now let's take a guess here with some of these. We're going to decide if the events are disjoint or overlapping. So we're going to use cards. This here says you're going to select a card from a standard deck, tell whether the events are disjoint or overlapping, then find P of A or B. So here event A is selecting a heart. Event B is selecting a king. And let's look over here. So is this disjoint or overlapping? So if we look at our hearts over here, this section, and our kings are here, notice how they overlap, and you could have a king of hearts. So these are overlapping. So the probability of A plus the probability of B, and then minus both of them. So the probability we select a heart. So if you were to count, there's 13 out of 52 hearts. Plus selecting a king, there's 4 kings. Then you subtract a king and a heart, so that's one of them. So you get 16 over 52, which you could reduce, but it's okay if you don't. Here, selecting a red card is event A, and selecting a spade, which is a black card. So take notice, here are the spades. We don't have any red cards that are a spade. So these events are disjoint. So we'll just take the probability of selecting a red card, which is 26 red cards, over 52, plus selecting a spade, there's 13 spades. So that's 39 over 52. All right, so when we go to the next page here, this says at Park Center, 33% of the students are on the honor roll, 22% are in band. 16% of the students are on honor roll and in band. What's the probability that a randomly selected student is on the honor roll or is in band? So the probability that they're on honor roll or band is equal to the probability that they're on honor roll plus the probability that they're in band minus the probability of the honor roll and band. So the probability they're on honor roll is 33% plus the probability that they're in band is 22% minus both of them is right here, 16%. So in your calculator, you can just take 33 plus 22 minus 16, and that'll give you 39%. All right, next one says, this year you decide to try out for the school musical. After the first round of cuts, you know that you have a 22% chance of being cast as the lead. Your friend also tried out and has a 35% chance of being cast as the lead. What is the probability of you or your friend being cast? So these are disjoint because in the case of this problem, like of course in a play, you can have more than one lead. But in this case, we only have one lead. It's either you or it's your friend. It's not both. So this event is disjoint. So the probability that it's you or your friend is the probability of that you get it, or your chances, which is 22%, plus the chances of your friend, which is 35%. Add those in your calculator and you get a 57% chance that it's going to be you or your friend. All right, so this one here says use a formula to find P of A and B. So this one is going to change a little bit because before, if you look up above, we've been looking at using the words or. So we've been looking for an A or a B. This time, if you look up here, we're going to be looking for the and piece. So here it says music. In a survey of 300 students, 150 like pop music or country music. There are 97 students who like pop, and there are 83 students who like country. What is the probability that a randomly selected student likes both pop music and country? So here we have to think about, okay, well, we want to know both. We want to know that they like both, pop and country. So our formula looks like this, the probability of A or B. So I'll put pop music or country music is equal to the probability they like pop music plus the probability they like country music minus the probability that they like both, which is what we want to know. So it says up here 150 students like both of them. So that's 150 out of 300. 97 students like pop and 83 students like country minus both of them, which we don't know. So the way that this works is we want to get our x to the other side of the equal sign, and we want to get our known number, 150 over 300, to the other side. So when you're doing a problem like this, you're technically going to be adding x over 300 to the other side, while at the same time subtracting 150 over 300 to the other side. So essentially what you're doing is you're just flipping these two around. So when you do that, it looks like x over 300 is equal to 97 over 300 plus 83 over 300 minus 150 over 300. And in your calculator, if you took 97 plus 83 minus 150, you would get 30 students out of 300. All right, the last piece that I want to show you today, and we will talk about it a little bit more, is the probability of the complement of an event. So the complement is when we're talking about usually like we'll take the opposite of something to figure it out. So if I say, what's the probability that we are going to choose an even number? If I said to find the complement, then you would find the probability that it's not even. So you would flip it by saying 1 minus the probability of event A. So let's just do some math examples, and we'll do some word problem examples at a different time. But here it says find the complement of A. So if I say, well, what's the probability? The probability of A is equal to 1, then I would take 1 minus that to find the complement. So that's 1 minus 1, which is 0. Here, the probability of A happening is 0.25. Oops, sorry. So I will take 1 minus 0.25, which is 0.75. And the last one would be 1 minus 9 over 16, which is equal to 7 over 16. So those are the pieces that I want to talk about for now. You'll be able to see your homework 10.4, which problems to do and not do, up on the board. And I'm going to have another video for 10.5. Thanks.